Dolphins fans, what is going on today? It is Ben Morgan of the Fins Up Network. Free agency is not anywhere close to being over. However, now that we have that first week, this first wave of free agency in the books, where we got to see some of the signings the team make, some of the positions that the front office decided to plug leading up to the NFL draft. We know it's some of our in-house guys who will not be back. Obviously, the Robert Hunts, the Andrew Van Ginkels, the Christian Wilkins of the world. We already know all that stuff now. So you know what it's time for? A 7-round mock draft. That's exactly what we're going to be doing in today's video. I'm going to be using the Pro Football Network mock draft simulator. Now, I've been kind of toying around with the different simulators out there, and it seems like there's a lot of discrepancies in these simulators. You'll use one and someone will drop you like, it's not all that realistic. But then you go to the next simulator and just a different player drops or a player gets taken too high. Regardless, I want to use these mock drafts as a tool that we can talk about different prospects. We can talk about draft options. We can talk about draft strategies. So by no means have we found the simulator that's the Bible. That does not exist. But what I want to do is go through these prospects, go through these strategies that we can use. But I do want to hear from you as well. As always, I'm going to share the screen. You guys will be able to see what I'm seeing in regards to the prospects that are available. So every time the Dolphins are up, let's hear who you would have taken at that selection. And right before we share the screen, happy birthday shout out to Michael Hikus. Michael, if there's one thing I can say, it's I think it's time. Ask your old man, you know what? It's time for a car or Miami Dolphins season tickets. Regardless, your call. You make it happen, but happy birthday. But like I said, let's jump in to today's NFL mock draft. The first time we did a mock draft this offseason, we did a 2-round mock draft. I believe in that one, we ended up with Jackson Powers-Johnson and T'Vondre Sweat in that mock draft. However, we've had some more time here this offseason to dive into some later round prospects. So it is time for that 7-round mock. One of many that we'll be doing here this offseason, Miami Dolphins fans. So let's see how things play out. I will get to a mock draft where we do some different trades. However, we're going to leave trades out of this one. As you can see, we could slide back there, make a little bit of a pickup from the Houston Texans. Let's see what happened. Like we said, there's no science to this because Caleb Williams, I would say, is likely a shoe-in to go first, regardless of those first 3 picks. Do feel like they're going to be quarterbacks at this time. So as we make our way down there, there's a big name right there around the Miami Dolphins. If they go edge rusher, he comes off the board. Latham comes off the board. Mims comes off the board. We got a run of tackles there, as you see Fuaga as well. Jared Verse goes. That's another interesting name if the Dolphins wanted to target an edge rusher in the first round. And then, yes, a lot of Dolphins fans' biggest fears comes to fruition. They're at number 20 with Powers-Johnson coming off the board. Like we said, though, with free agency, it's not necessarily how do I want to word this here? We filled enough positions to the point where I don't feel like we go into round 1 saying, yep, we need an offensive lineman. Now, I still subscribe to the idea that I'd love an offensive lineman, but it's not this outright pressing need that it once was due to the positions we've made. We'll get to all that, though. Like always, I'll go through each of the positions, give you an idea as to who we are looking at right here. So wide receiver is interesting in this situation because there's basically one that I think that may be available that I think the Dolphins could have their eye on, and that's Brian Thomas. So I would keep him in the running right now. No tight ends in the first round for me unless it's Brock Bowers. So Fatanu slides. Fuaga went 18. Fatanu slides to 21. So, man, that's going to be a hard one for me to pass up on. We look at the guards. Barton is still available as well. I think he'll be there for us. Jackson Powers is gone. Obviously, Frazier being there still. Let's take a look at the defenders that are going to be available. So you got both Newton and Murphy available on the interior defensive line. Both of these guys intrigue me, but we've seen what the Dolphins have done with defensive tackle so far this offseason, and that's, hey, let's sign everybody. Let's sign everybody. Let's have a big camp battle. So I don't rule out the idea of drafting a defensive tackle. I don't think the moves we've made so far would rule that out. It's just, like I said, though, it just doesn't present that pressing need that it did at one point in time. I do think there are a couple of edge rushers the Dolphins consider at 21. However, I think they're off the board already. I don't see any off-ball linebackers the Dolphins would take in the first. Cornerback is interesting, but it's not quite as interesting as it once was due to what we've done so far in free agency as well by signing Fuller. And I don't see any. DeJean could be an interesting prospect there as well, but we'll probably pass there. I'm back to, you could really go with that future planning there with Brian Thomas. The Dolphins did bring back Braxton Berrios. So we do have an option, I should say, at slot receiver right there. However, it's going to be tough for me to pass on Fatanu here. A lot of the things post-combine as well is that Fatanu, man, like his draft stock was already rising, and what he did at the combine basically solidified himself as one of those top 25 picks. So if he were to slide to the Dolphins, he's listed as a tackle here on PFN. We've been told that Dolphins see him more as a guard. But however intriguing Brian Thomas is, like I said, I'm a first-round enthusiast right now for the offensive lineman. So I am going to go with Fatanu at number 21. So now we're not picking until pick 55. We do have a second-round pick this year. Just like last year, I guess it was 2 years ago when we didn't have it. Like I said, we got offered a 25 first here. Like I said, some of these mocks are a little bit crazy with their trades, but we'll do a trade one here at some point in the near future. For you quarterback enthusiasts out there, I'm not in that camp this offseason. Penix is still on the board. Lots of running backs still on the board. I don't see that as a second round need for the Dolphins. Wide receiver is interesting, because here's my strategy. I'll go into this really quick. If the Dolphins were to trade back from 21 and acquire, let's say, an additional second or third or fourth, whatever they end up getting in return for that, I think that's the ticket to finding a wide receiver in this draft. You could take a wide receiver here at 55, but I just feel like there's so many other positions and prospects that you've got your eye on that taking a wide receiver here almost, I don't want to say it feels like a pressing need, but if you can add another one of these day two picks, then I just think it opens up the door for that second round, or for a second or a third round wide receiver, like a lot of the names on this list here. Let's look at tight ends. It looks like Sanders just went off the board. Tight end's not as much of a need based on what we've done with Jonnu Smith so far. We got Jody Fortson as well. Lyman, we're continuing to look here. BB stays on the board. Mahogany is on the board at center. See if anyone fell. Van Pran did continue to slide. So if you wanted to double down on offensive line, he would still be available. Let's go on to the defensive side here. Ooh, so there's a name that catches my eye. Chris Jenkins and Braden Fisk both fall here. Like we talked about with the first round pick there at defensive tackle. It's not as much of a pressing need, but I really like both of those prospects. Trice still available if you wanted to go edge. He's definitely a guy I would have my eye on here. Linebacker is where I'm very intrigued as well. I wanted to see where Edgerrin Cooper went. Man, he went early. He went early second round at 38. Like I said, on the discrepancy of these mocks, Edgerrin Cooper has never been available for me on Pro Football Network. And I forgot which other one it is. He's never not been available for me at 55 on that one. So I really like Cooper there if he's available. Dolphins still have interest, a lot of interest in Peyton Wilson as well with that pick. At 55, obviously the injury history is a concern there for him. Kalen Carson is still there. That's a nice name to keep an eye on. Safety, I was wondering if Newman was going to be available. However, he is not. So yeah, I like the wide receivers here. I like those defensive tackles. Braylon Trice is an intriguing option for me. I'm going to step out a little bit here, though. Let's go with Peyton Wilson. I know we brought in a couple of guys in free agency, one being Death, the other one being Jordyn Brooks, who's going to fill into that starting role. We've got David Long, but like we've seen, man, we need bodies at this position. We're not counting on Channing Tindall for anything at this point in time. So, like I said, it's not that we're super thin, like crazy thin at linebacker. However, I think what we've done in free agency allows you to go a little bit best player available. And the Dolphins might, quite honestly, see a linebacker in that situation as best player available. All right, so we're on to round 5. We've got a 5th, we've got 2 6th, and a 7th. We'll go back through. Like I said, keep any picks you would have made. Go ahead, let me know in the comments for each of these. Running back, you could potentially have someone come and play here. Since we didn't get Derrick Henry, we haven't made any other moves there. We did bring in Savon Ahmed. We brought him back. I just don't necessarily know if I see him going there in the draft. Luke McCaffrey, I'm going to tell you right now, he is the leader in the clubhouse for me. If he were to fall to this pick in the 5th round, that is another option for selecting a wide receiver in this year's draft. I think he might go before then, but like I said, these are a very inexact science. Tight end, if we want to go down that road, I know that there's some interest in Eric All, Dalen Holker, who we've talked a little bit about here this offseason. More offensive lineman options for you guys. I'll go through the guards and centers here real quick as well. Go local with Cohen there. Go on to the centers. And we'll check out the defense real quick before, like I said, I think before we head back to McCaffrey. Gabe Hall's an intriguing guy at defensive tackle. The Dolphins are interested in a guy like Christian Boyd. Maybe we'll see if one of those guys can slide to the 6th. Got a couple of edge rushers. Linebacker, you can double down on your Eichenbergs if you're into stuff like that. Cornerback. I got a couple of late round prospects at cornerback, linebacker that I'm looking at as well. No names are necessarily popping off at me the way that Luke McCaffrey did. So I'm actually going to go right there with this pick. Didn't think he was going to be available. Love the fact that he is available. Like I said, we don't necessarily need like a day one contributor from a wide receiver. It'd be nice, but we got Barrios back. We got Ezu Kanma still. There's room there's room to add bodies in this room, but at this point in time, McCaffrey is definitely too much to pass up. So let's add him to our wide receiver room. All right, so we've got the 2/6 coming up. Let's see here. Pick 184 right now is us on the clock. I'll go through the positions once again. I do like Blake Watson out of Memphis. Thought he looked pretty good in some of the offseason games and practices that he participated in. If they wouldn't have went wide receiver, I still like Aeneas Smith as well. You'll see him here out of Texas A&M. If he were to slide, maybe you don't pick a wide receiver in round 5. You get him in round 6. That would be fantastic. A couple of tight ends there. Holker. I just want to give you guys a recap of what we've done so far. So we've went offensive line, we've went linebacker, we've went wide receiver. Nathan Thomas, there's a guy I definitely have my eye on as well out of Louisiana Lafayette. Hey, you lose Robert Hunt out of Louisiana Lafayette, you bring in Nathan Thomas. A little bit of a difference there, though. We're talking about a 2nd rounder versus a guy here we're looking at in the 6th. Cohen's still available as well. Or the center, we'll go on to defense. Christian Boyd, I already talked about him. He might be one of my leaders in the clubhouse right now for this pick as well. All right, we'll close out with the safeties. So I am between Christian Boyd and Nathan Thomas. That's just where my head's at right now. So if you look at here, we're picking at 184 in the 6th, and then we turn around and we pick, what is that, like 13, 14 spots later at 198. I like both of these guys. I'm going to give the nod to Boyd here. Let's take Boyd in this position. Let's see what happens here at 198. Like I said, drop your picks there as well. Curious to see who you guys would do it. We just saw Aeneas Smith go off right before us. If the Dolphins did want to double down at wide receiver there. Let's see. I believe he hung on. Nathan Thomas did hang on here. So we would have him as an option for that 2nd pick in the 6th round. And like I said, I do like him as a later round prospect as well. Like I said, tackle coming out of Louisiana Lafayette. So the fact that he hung around and we were between him and Boyd, let's go ahead and plug Nathan Thomas into the 2nd pick at round 6. Sorry, I should go really quick through here for you guys playing along at home. Like I said, drop them in there. I almost didn't give you an option there. So yeah, look fast. Holker is still there if you want to get yet another tight end adding into the mix. We'll go defense real quick. Go on to the edge. And like we said, with these 6th, 7th round pick, we've learned over the last couple of years. Got a linebacker out of Notre Dame, obviously that fell a little bit there. Later round prospect that Dolphins could have their eye on. What I was saying though is these guys don't always, these 6th, 7th round players, you're picking, you're never picking a surefire thing at this situation. You are picking guys that we've seen over the last couple of years aren't guaranteed roster spots. Heck, look at our draft from last year for case in point, for that example. If you want some recency there, Frank Crum available. He had a very nice combine. He was the guy with the flow, wasn't he? He was the guy with the beautiful hair. Should draft him just for his looks. He can make us he can make us some money, get that Head and Shoulders endorsement deal that all the guys seem to get with the hair. All right, we're, like you said, we're in that 7th round options right now, guys that are definitely not guarantees to make a team by any means. You're looking for prospects, your prospects at this point in time, I should say, guys that maybe can stick, that you see a little bit of intrigue in, maybe you can grow and develop. I did like a couple of running backs on the page. I'll probably end up going back there. Like I said, Crumb's there if you wanted to give him a look at tackle. Hergel, you got another guard out of Boston College there. Let's go on to the defensive side of the ball here. Oh, I talked about late round cornerbacks I had my eye on as well. We might have to, we'll get there soon here. Reamer, linebacker out of Nebraska, still available. Oh, there's my guy. Marcellus Dial, cornerback out of South Carolina. Sounds like the Dolphins have some intrigue in him as a late round prospect as well. So let's look at the running backs one more time. I'm intrigued by some of these guys, the Dylan Johnsons, the McClellans, Kendall Milton as well out of Georgia. I wouldn't mind if you're taking a 7th round flyer on a running back, by all means. Let's just kick the tires and see what we've got. We've seen how the NFL values that position. However, despite the fact that we have brought in Fuller, obviously we drafted a former South Carolina cornerback in last year's draft in Cam Smith. I am going to go with Dial in this situation. Like I said, we're taking flyers at this point in time, but that's all you can do. Let's do a quick recap here. Fatanu in the 1st, Peyton Wilson in the 2nd, Luke McCaffrey at pick 158, which was our 5th. The 2 6th round picks went to Christian Boyd and Nathan Thomas, and Marcellus Dial went in the 7th. So like I said, I do want to hear from you guys as well. What would you guys have done in those situations? By all means, like I said, throw your selections in the comments. That is where we'll end it for today, Dolphins fans. Like I said, a very inexact science, but hey, we love mock drafts, so that's what we're going to be doing this offseason. I got a bunch of other positional things that we'll talk about this offseason. 1st round targets, 2nd round targets, late round targets. We'll be getting to it all here over the next month or so. So like I said, go ahead, drop your players, your submissions in the comments. Let's carry on the conversation there until the next video. But until then, Dolphins fans, fins up.